The Neijing 2 drawing refers to a description of the internal alchemical effect of the small heaven Qigong practice. The small heaven is the practice of circulating qi in reverse along the DAZHUI and RENMAI meridians for vitality, longevity, and greater awareness. The Neijing 2 drawing was engraved on the wall of the White Cloud Temple in Beijing, China in 1886, with a record of it being originally discovered as an ancient silk scroll in Mount Song, China. Therefore, this drawing and the small heaven practice may date back to ancient China. Okay, now let's look at the meaning of the Neijing 2 in relation to the small heaven Qigong practice. I put together an interpretation of the Neijing 2 based on information I've gathered combined with my experience of this practice. The base of the Neijing 2 represents the base of our body at the perineum, where the Wei Yin energy gate is located. The image here depicts the flow of a river, and this river is of yin energy. Therefore, this image on the Neijing 2 is called the River of Yin. It's important to note that the Wei Yin energy gate, located on the perineum, is the most yin point of the body. From this point, we can draw vital earth qi energy upward along the small heaven pathway. Just above the River of Yin, we can also see a boy and girl turning a water wheel. The water wheel is drawing the River of Yin, or earth qi, upward through the Wei Yin, the perineum. The male and female child represents the testicles and ovaries, or the polarities of yin and yang. The sexual energy activated at the perineum from drawing in the River of Yin is directed upward along the small heaven pathway, and it's transformed into qi. This churning water wheel can therefore ignite the small heaven pathway to circulate. The adjacent picture displaying a temple symbolizes our JING, or our essence. The image exhibits a temple with a storehouse of water flowing, representing our life force, or JING. Our JING, or life force, is activated from drawing the qi through the perineum. Then the qi moves upward along the small heaven pathway to the next energy gate. Then we cross over the next key energy gate depicted in the Neijing 2 as a protruding stone. This is the tailbone, which is known as the Wei Lu energy gate. From here, we begin our ascent up the DAZHUI meridian pathway in the small heaven practice. The tailbone is key as it is the base of the spine, and mentally stimulating the tailbone activates the movement up the back of the spine that the DAZHUI meridian runs upon. The qi is then guided upward from the Wei Lu energy gate to the Ming Men energy gate, known as the Door of Life. The image implies another climb up a rocky slope to arrive at the Ming Men energy gate. In the painted image of the Neijing 2, we can see a fire at the Ming Men location, representing the heating energy we build at this energy gate, activating our life force so that we can move the qi upward upon the small heaven pathway. Then the qi is guided upward along the small heaven pathway to the DAZHUI energy gate, the big bone located on the back of the neck, or C7. Digressing back to a point we cross over between the Ming Men and the DAZHUI, there is a point midway that is not included in the 9 key energy gates along the small heaven pathway. Yet, it is a significant point. Again, you see a small temple here, probably corresponding to the area on the back opposite the middle Dantien on the chest. A temple typically represents a sacred place. At the very least, in acupuncture, this point, SHENDOA, is said to be an acupoint that calms the spirit. And in Qigong, being internally calm is how we contain our Shen, or our spirit. Since this point is on the small heaven pathway, as one advances in practice, they can bring this point into their awareness. Now we've talked about the points from Wei Yin to Wei Lu to Ming Men and the midpoint on the back all the way to DAZHUI. And now we're going to move up to the next point along the small heaven pathway called YUZHEN. On the way up the pathway of the small heaven, we go up the neck, and you notice this pagoda with many floors. That seems to represent the neck, and you can think of the chi moving up one vertebrae at a time as it crosses over the back of the neck along the DHARMA meridian, much like how we would go up one floor at a time on the pagoda. Then we continue directing the chi up the neck to the base of the skull at the YUZHEN point. YUZHEN is opposite SHANG DANTIEN at the forehead. Again, you may notice there's a temple located here at YUZHEN. At the top of the Neijing 2 drawing, there's a depiction of 9 sacred peaks of the Kunlun Mountains in China. This illustration corresponds to the small heaven pathway as it crosses over the top of the head. These mountain peaks possibly represent acupoints on the head. The mountain peak illustration with the sun above it likely represents the Baiwei energy gate, the most yang point of our body. This is the point known for being the key receptor of heaven chi, and heaven chi is also drawn from the sun, and the Baiwei is a key point along the small heaven pathway. Below the image of the mountain peaks is an illustration of the sea of brain marrow. The sea of brain marrow is the vital brain energy impacted by the small heaven practice. This may also be known as ojas in the yogic tradition, and perhaps it's comparable to cerebral spinal fluid. The ziggurat image, located under the Baiwei, likely corresponds to the pineal gland, located within the brain. The pineal is thought to be the mud pill palace, and the ziggurat image depicts this palace. During small heaven practice, the pineal and other glands in the brain are activated as the chi is circulated over the Baiwei and down the forehead. As the chi is circulated over the Baiwei and head in the small heaven practice, it gathers immense heaven chi, and then it is drawn down to the forehead, the Shang Dantien energy gate. As with all dantians, these energy gates are large areas in the body. They're elixir fields, and they start within the body and radiate out to the external body. Thus they differ from acupoint energy gates. At Shang Dantien, we see the image of Lao Tzu seated at the forehead area. Lao Tzu characterizes the inner wisdom of Taoism. The small heaven practice activates Shang Dantien, which in turn initiates wisdom and awareness. The 2 eyes below the upper Dantien represent the yin and yang. One eye computes yin qualities, and the other eye computes yang qualities. When they're brought together as one eye, then there's equal balance, or a merging of yin and yang, awakening the third eye and the Shang Dantien inner wisdom. Bringing the 2 eyes together as one may also relate to the 2 hemispheres of the brain coming together in yin-yang balance, as each eye has a connection to either the left or the right brain hemispheres. As we circulate the chi down the forehead, over the nose, and to the upper lip, we come to the starting point of the DHARMA meridian, the yang meridian. Then we must cross over the mouth to the renmai meridian, the yin meridian. In the drawing, we can see the break in the 2 meridians. In the image seen here, Dhammo, or Bodhidharma, is seen bridging the space between the 2 meridians with his hands and feet. This clearly represents the magpie bridge, which is basically the tongue touching the upper palate to connect the 2 meridians together. Interestingly, Bodhidharma is known for bridging Buddhist philosophies of India with China and bringing the balance of yang-like martial arts practices with yin-like Buddhist meditation and prayer. Touching the tongue to the upper palate is essential in the small heaven meditation, as it connects the circuits of the DAZHUI and RENMAI yin and yang meridians. In the area where the mouth is on the Neijing 2 diagram, we see what is a nectar pool of ambrosia that represents the saliva that is secreted during the small heaven practice. This image is the creation of the golden elixir, showing a nectar that pours from the brain into this pool, referring to the pituitary and the hypothalamus secretions. These glands are activated in the small heaven practice circulation, inducing salivary secretions to occur. It's therefore believed that the saliva that forms during Qigong meditation is a sort of nectar or a golden elixir with healing properties, and it is to be swallowed. This saliva is considered a spiritual fluid in medical Qigong, and it's said to keep the mind clear and the skin youthful. The display of the golden elixir ambrosial pool is also shown flowing into the RENMAI channel, representing the activation of Qi on the pathway and the glandular secretions from the brain flowing downward along the RENMAI channel. So now we've basically progressed up the DAZHUI channel, starting from the tailbone, up the back, the center of the back, around the head, and down to the upper lip. Next, we're going to progress downward on the RENMAI channel, starting from the lower lip, down the center of the body, down to the perineum. Now as we scroll down the Neijing 2, we see this long thread of silk. And as we go to the bottom, we see a lady weaving this long thread of silk, pulling it downward. And my understanding is that this represents the way of drawing the qi down in a meditative fashion. Slowly it's pulling it down like a silken thread down the pathway, down the RENMAI meridian of the small heaven. So in order to draw the qi down, it has to be done in a soft and smooth manner, as if you're drawing a silken thread downward. Going back to the RENMAI channel under the lower lip, we guide the qi down, around the chin, and downward until we reach the center of the chest. This is the ZHONG Dantien, or middle Dantien energy gate. Again, this is one of the 3 Dantiens. So it is an energy gate that's a large area, and it radiates outward from inside the body. Here we see an image of a spiral of rice grains spinning in a 3.5 circle, much like the spiraling of DNA that carries instructions for life and growth. Around the spiral are flames representing the expanding energetic life force radiating from the ZHONG Dantien. The heart corresponds to the ZHONG Dantien energy gate, which also physically expands the warmth and blood to our whole body. Standing above this spiral is a cowherder boy with a Big Dipper contacting his upper Dantien at the forehead. The Big Dipper meditation is for cultivating higher virtues. It's significant to place this representation at the middle Dantien or chest, since cultivating virtues impacts the upper Dantien or the forehead area, and then we can see that this energy is shown flowing downward to the middle Dantien. We might consider that this represents an interconnection between the upper Dantien at the forehead and the middle Dantien in relation to the cosmic energy of the Big Dipper. And the spiraling may also then represent the cosmic and physical energies expanding at the middle Dantien energy gate. Now we move the qi downward from the middle Dantien to and through the diaphragm. In terms of the pathway of the small heaven, the trees and rocks here may well represent the pathway through the diaphragm. Sometimes tension and fear are held here, and it causes blockages. The densely forested area in the rocky plateau here illustrate the area we must navigate through. We may again use the metaphor of the image of the maiden drawing the silken thread downward to understand how we guide the qi through the diaphragm. After passing through the diaphragm on the small heaven pathway down the RENMAI channel, we reach the energy gate called Sha Dantien. Typically, we begin small heaven practice from Sha Dantien, as it is the location where we store and build our qi so we can easily circulate it. Here we see a buffalo driven to plow a field, which represents the work needed to cultivate qi in Sha Dantien. Cultivation is a Taoist term used for developing and growing qi, much like preparing soil, planting, and cultivating seeds so they can grow. An abundance of qi can be stored in Sha Dantien, and qigong practice focused at Sha Dantien builds that qi. The Neijing too also illustrates 4 yin-yang or taiji symbols turning around a ball. Clearly, yin-yang represents the blending of the two forces at Sha Dantien, and 4 yin-yangs possibly represents the different qualities or combinations of yin and yang, as per the ever-changing Bagua. In any case, turning and spinning the energetic ball around in Sha Dantien is a method of activating and building qi in Sha Dantien. Then you will also notice that there's energy radiating outward from the spinning ball of the yin-yangs, which expands the Dantien energy gate. And finally, this creates a fire at Sha Dantien, which is the heat and energy needed to activate the force and movement of qi, as seen in the illustration of the fire building and catching onto the turning and churning energy at the Sha Dantien energy gate. These esoteric illustrations of the Neijing Tu is clearly the metaphorical methodology for invoking our imagination and integrating that imagination into our physicality so that we study the small heaven practice from an internal awareness as opposed to a simple intellectual understanding of it. I hope you find this description helpful in your practice of the small heaven meditation. For more information on the small circle and small heaven practice, please see our book on Qi and Body Awareness.